If someone tells you to do something, do you obey or do you comply? Two words, same action, completely different meanings, obedience and compliance. Most people think they mean the same thing until life puts you in a situation where the difference suddenly matters. Hello, fellow Ishies. My name is Dina, and this is Correctish English, where we learn why English is messy, why it bothers some people, and why it actually makes sense after all. In a previous video, I told you about how English loves to keep two words that look like synonyms: help and assist, ask and inquire, cow and beef. And somehow we know when to use which one without being taught. Until recently, I thought obedience and compliance were one of those pairs, but they're not. I hadn't planned on doing this video yet because of some real life circumstances. I found myself asking a question I didn't expect. Am I going to be obedient or compliant? I always thought they were basically the same thing, although compliant sounds a little mousy and weak. Obedient just makes me want to do the opposite of whatever is asked. Is it just me? Maybe it's in my DNA. A few years ago, you probably remember this too, I was seeing a lot of posts and signs and things that said, "I will not comply" or "we will not comply." I don't really remember seeing anything that says, "I will not obey." So clearly, people understood a nuance that I had missed. I was reading a book, of course I was, and I came across what I think is the essential difference between obedience and compliance. Quick note before anyone gets bent out of shape, it is from a Christian book called Eternity is Now in Session. But this is a language and concept discussion. It's not a theology lesson, and this description goes far beyond religion. It has a lot of interesting life applications. So I'm just going to read part of what it says. Obedience has become a virtue that nobody wants. We celebrate leaders, mavericks, rogues, or rogue agents, nonconformists, people who don't care what others think. When was the last time you saw a bumper sticker that said, "My child is an obedient student at High Achievers Elementary"? To most of us, obedience sounds like compliance. It doesn't sound like a leadership trait. Often we associate obedience with unthinking, robotic conformity to rules that make us less than human. But that's compliance. It's not obedience as Jesus called for it. The obedience Jesus called for requires judgment, discernment, creativity, and initiative. But trust without obedience isn't trust at all. It's a mental game to say otherwise. It is the nature of genuine trust to obey. That's what trust means. And that's the key. Here's the difference that changed everything for me. Compliance is about rules. Obedience is about trust. Compliance is external, enforced, rule-based, often fear-based. Obedience assumes you trust the source enough to act with understanding, not just submission. Here's the line that stopped me cold. Trust without obedience isn't trust at all. Because if you say you trust someone, but you only follow them when it's convenient, that's not trust. It's negotiation. And obedience, when it's real, isn't passive. It's active agreement. Think about when you were a kid, or if you raised any kids. Were they obedient or compliant? Most of my childhood, I was compliant. I was the good kid. I followed the rules, and I expected everybody else to follow the rules too. And don't get me wrong, I love my parents, and they did a pretty decent job. But looking back, trust and safety weren't really there. And my parents didn't have trustworthy, safe adults growing up either. So compliance made sense. Compliance survives when trust doesn't. So here's the distinction that matters. Compliance follows rules. Obedience follows trust. English didn't keep both words by accident. We need both because they describe very different human experiences. When someone asks something of you, do you feel pressure to comply? I know a lot of people that have a hard time saying no. Or do you see it as an invitation to obey? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I read them. And if you like digging into words that seem simple but aren't, you're in the right place. See you next time.